What does all this mean? What do I do? And can somebody tell me in 15 minutes? Can we do this in a short video? So when you start, you are going to have either 2 or 5 slots, depending on whether it's a free or a full account. And the first thing you're going to want to do, it'll come up with a world selection. You'll either be playing in America or Europe. Americans tend to play in America and Europeans tend to play in Europe. And if you're in Australia like me, you play wherever you can get a good ping, which is America usually, although I do have a European server just for extra torture. And if you have a friend in World v World and you want to play World v World, you may have to pick an actual world. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. You either pick America or Europe because that's where you live or that's where your friends are. So that's your first main change of the day. You can change it later. You do get 1 free change. Otherwise, after that, you have to pay. And then we're into the character creation screen. You are going to have to pick a race. For that character, that is permanent. You are stuck with it. You cannot change that. So choose wisely. After picking a race, you are going to have to pick a profession. This is also permanent. You have your heavy armors, your leather armors, and your light magic people with the magic armors. This is permanent. You cannot change this. We'll go back to those in a minute, but once we get past those, we get into the fun stuff of just selecting what your character looks like, and you can pick from all your different hairstyles and all the fun stuff and spend as long as you want doing that. But remember, this is not permanent. You can change this later with either in-game money, or the easy way is with real money, but you can do it in-game options as well, and you can change this at any time. You will even get more options later. Fear not. This is all changeable, so you don't have to panic about it. Colors, don't worry about colors too much. You'll get plenty of colors later and you can change them around till your heart's content. Everything else is permanent-ish, but it is only story related. This will just affect your story so you can have fun picking the things that you think will fit your personality in game and not panic about any of these things. Even the funny look in your eyes that you get there, that's just a mask. You can get rid of that. There's all sorts of fun options here, but don't panic about any of them. You can go back and forth through all this section and select what you want, and then you get to your name, which has to be unique. Can be changed later. It's another thing that can be changed later, but it will cost you. For the most part, most of these things are not a big panic. You don't have to worry about them. You do have to worry about your profession and your race, and what race and profession do you even pick. So the first thing you're going to have to do is pick a race. I think there are 3 main start ones that I usually go to on my defaults, and that is human, obvious, Sylvari, which are a plant which sort of look human, and these little guys because they're so much fun. But you also have the option of the big warrior looking guys who are hunters but look like really good warriors, and you have the large cat guys which are the Charr for a very different look. So humans are a good option for just your default look. Obviously they dress up pretty good, they hold their fashions very well. Obviously your fashions are going to depend on whether you're a heavy armor, a medium armor, or a light. This is a light. They have some of the nicer clothes. They carry their fashion very well, so that's a good choice there. The starting world is this quaint little medieval fantasy land of Queensdale. One of the better starting areas, in my opinion. It's probably the easier starting area, so humans have that going for them. But even if you start with another character, because you want them in particular, you can just travel here. All the starter areas are open, so you can go to any of them. So if you want to come here to do your quests and get your levels up, you can as any race. That's what the look is going to be like when you first start in human. And each race gets a starter city. The human one is quite massive. As you can see, it has all the cities have all the crafting and banks and everything you're going to want, so you will come there, especially in the early game when you don't have anywhere else to go. All quite big. This one is one of the more massive and interesting to explore, but they are all good and they all have the things you want. You will probably end up picking a city that you just like and come there with any of the races, but That's okay, you can do that. The Silvari or plant guys have a fairly distinctive plant look, but other than that, they are very human sized. They carry the fashions very similarly. Their world is very different. It's very plant oriented. They're very close to nature. Unlike the more provincial humans, these guys are very planty, as you can see, and the missions are more based on their society. They do have the best story, better than the human story, although the human story is not too terrible. I do like their story, and it's they have a very unique story. The Silvari city is quite unique. It's just built into a large tree, which is also their mother. It's a bit weird, but it all makes sense in the end. Just as with the human city, there are all the things you're going to want here, all your banking and crafting and player trading. Oh, that's the bank over there. That must be player trading over there. All the things you're going to need are here. I don't come to this one very often, but if you're a plant, you might start here and live here. It is quite pretty after all. Can be a little bit tricky to get around though. Now, the Azura are little guys, but they are a lot of fun. They are very agile because of their size. The smaller characters just seem to move faster. They are more agile and a lot of fun. They have some really fun dialogue. They look cool. Their world is a lot like the Silvari. It's right next door, except these guys come from underground and they have all this technology, all this robots. So if you like a lot of tech stuff and techie looking old school fantasy tech world with fantasy tech robots, this is the place. I find the early stories a little bit painful because there's a lot of repairing robots and that. I still think the Silvari story is probably the more interesting, but some of the early story stuff on all of them are a bit tedious sometimes. Later on, when you get into the big parts of the story, it's all the same. It's only the early story that is going to really be dependent on your race. And the little guys don't carry the fashion quite as well. You really have to work to get a nice looking outfit. You can get the same sorts of clothes. It's just these guys don't necessarily look the best in it all. This is a Norn in some fairly skimpy medium armor. They are the bigger guys. They are quite tall. They don't look it here. You'd have to stand next to a human. Do we have a human? That looks like some sort of human there. They're quite a bit taller. Fashion is okay. They sort of human looking, so you can look very similar. They feel slower. This is a fairly sprightly character. It's been sped up quite a lot, but they can feel a bit slow and lumbering, especially when you've got a big male Norn warrior or something. This is your start world, or at least this is part of it. It's sort of open woodland, very Nordic looking with some fairly unique looking houses and whatnot. Most of theirs is in the snow, which we'll have a look at. If you're starting as a Norn, you're going to spend a fair bit of time in the snow, because you do have to go to your home place for your story, even though you can go anywhere in the world to get your points up and do quests and whatnot. You are going to be in your own land for some of the early stories, so you will have to explore here, and you want to explore everywhere anyway, because it is a very cool place. I don't know why I'm not shooting people, but whatever. Oh, that's the one I want. I'm hitting the wrong button. That's what the problem is. And if we get cold, we can go by the fire or go inside by a fire. Doesn't really make any difference. They drink and hunt a lot. So if you like drinking and hunting, the story is very drinking and hunting and things like that oriented. So if you like that kind of thing, this is for you. The Norn City is a series of halls out in a nice little snowy valley, and you do different halls of, like, you've got the wolf hall, and I think it's a bear hall, and a raven, and some sort of very large cat over there, and your main hall here. So it's all built around these halls, and all your crafting things. Bank are outside here somewhere. If you like living in great Nordic halls, then this is the place for you, and you can come in here and talk hunting all day. The Charr start in Ascalon, which is a little bit off from the rest. It's the It's an old story from Guild Wars 1 where they took over from the humans, and there's some old human ruins still left behind, and they sort of burnt the place to a crisp a little bit. So it's not the nicest looking place, but it doesn't look too bad now. It has regrown. This Charr is not dressed very well, although even at the best they don't carry fashion really well. Great if you want to look like a big ugly cat creature. The females can look quite cute though, so there is hope there. They do feel very sluggish. They run funny. They can be a pain in the jumping puzzles. It's a choice. It's not my first choice. I do like these guys, but they can feel a bit sluggish. As you can see, their world is very military based, a lot of rusty metal, as you can see. So it's a design choice. If you want a big warrior race, their story is very war related, warrior clans and all this sort of thing. So if that's your thing. And their city is the same thing. It's a lot of metal and rust and war. So, and can be a little bit convoluted to get around. I couldn't even tell you where half the things are. I do know that there is a nice big section over here. I'm going to jump on our free mount, that you will get a free mount, even on a free account for 10 hours, just to make sure you have to buy the game, because you hate getting off the mount, because once you don't have a mount, it's slow to get around. As you can see, it's all the same theme. Look at all this beautiful crafting area. It's not a bad city. Just can be a bit of a pain to get around, and it definitely is a style choice. So that's your choices of races. That is permanent for that character. You can't change that later. You have to just delete it and start a new character, or just start a new character and save that one for later. Doesn't hurt to try a few characters straight up. If you only have 2 slots because you're on a free account, try a couple, and if they don't suit you straight away, just start again. Once you've got a character established, you don't want to delete it, because you do collect birthday gifts over the years. In the end, it's not going to matter which one you pick. They all do the job. It's just a matter of where you want to start, what you like the looks of. Try a few. My personal choice, I like the humans for the start area. I like the Savari for the story. I like these little guys for the dialogue and that they look cool. These guys because they're big and fun, I guess, if you want a big warrior dude. And these guys just because they're weird. Now, next we have Profession, and it is a much more difficult and probably more important choice. We'll have a quick look at all of them, or a little bit of a chat about all of them, but the idea of this is, what's the best for a new player, first time playing? What do I think? Just me. What do I know? Not much. Anyone in the comments will tell you. But this is what I think is the early first choice for anyone, and my pick for the easiest starting character is always going to be Ranger. You start with a bow and a pet that will fight with you. You're the only one that's going to start with a pet straight out of the gate. They're going to come along with you and help you fight and distract the enemies, and you can have like a bear or a lizard, or depending on your race you pick, you'll have different options, but they're all very much the same. You can have that pet with you, and you get a bow, which is a ranged weapon, which you can then use, and that's quite handy. You can pick up other weapons, especially when you get weapon swap. You might have an axe, or I think they can have a sword, or at least a great sword. Different races can only have certain weapons, but these guys do start with a bow, and to me it's the easy upfront choice. My other main choice is Necromancer. Now, Necromancer doesn't start with much. You get an axe that you can throw. It's a ranged axe. With the Necro, because the starter levels, when you start the game, it's super easy anyway. Everything's pretty easy to kill. You're in easy areas. You stay to easy areas. So Necro will work fine. And very quickly, you can get your skills up. As you get your skills up, you can put your points into the right areas, and you can get dead things as minions, which will help you fight and distract your enemies. And very quickly you have a whole bunch of pets, so it even becomes better than the Ranger. But you are level 31, I think, before you get all your before you can even get all of your minions. And you might not even want all minions, you might want some minions and some other skills. It is like a souped up dead thing ranger, and you have a sort of a shroud mode which you can kill things in without losing health. So it is once you get past that point, it is probably the easiest character in the game to play. So it is a really good first choice. Now, if you want a heavy build and easy, probably the Guardian Warrior, very similar, but my pick for the easiest and first up character, I know my daughter would disagree, is the Guardian. But you're going to have to build it as a power and put some toughness on it. It needs a bit of toughness to survive. But it's also a support character for your friends. So to me, it's the #1 choice if you want a heavy build. I'd like to say the Engineer is a good first choice, but it really isn't. Once you get to level 80 and get a Mechanist, it is one of the best in the game for ease of use, but it is a struggle to get there, and you've got to do a lot of micromanaging along the way. But it does start out as you build up your levels. Like the Necro, you've got to build up your levels, and then you can get all sorts of tool belts and turrets and all sorts of cool things. But there's a lot more micromanaging, so I don't think it's the best thing straight up, but it certainly is a good option for a second character. Same with the Mesmer. I consider the Mesmer a second character. It's something I always have as my second character. If I've only got 2 characters in a free account, when I had the free account, my choices were Necro and Mesmer, because Mesmers can do portals, and they're great for jumping puzzles or porting people up to the top of puzzles or other things. If you fall off, or if you just want to help somebody else up there, you can make portals. Bit of micromanaging with their with the little clones that you have to explode to kill things. So I would consider it a second choice. If you like fire though, you might love an Elementalist. It's another one that's considered hard, but if you do like fire and burning things, this is the way to go. So my picks for first character would be Heavy, Guardian, although Warrior is very similar. Ranger, if you want the medium armor, probably the easiest first up, because you just don't get a better start than that. Doesn't necessarily stay easy through the whole game, can be a bit tougher later on, but I have played one for years and it's fine. And for the lights, I'm always going to go for the Necro as the easiest. If you want that lovely elegant light armor, this is the one you want. They are very tough, very survivable, and that would be my first pick. So since it's my #1 choice for the absolute best actual starting from scratch character, I just started a new Ranger. This is straight out of the tutorial level where you've got to fight your way into the world. And as I say, you've got a bow and a pet to help you, and these guys are really nice and easy to kill. This is the starter area for the humans. I did humans because I thought it'd be the nice and easy start area. So I mean, if you want easy, this is as easy as it gets to start, because who doesn't love having a pet? I've got 2 skills on my bow already, and a bow as a 2-handed weapon is quite handy because you get all your skills on the one weapon. So again, super easy. Long bow is a little bit slow. I'm used to a short bow. There we go. This is the other limit of Ranger. I use a short bow with this one. This is later when you've got a lot more gear, a lot more dies, because that's a super expensive die. It's probably on there because I'm a very boring person. My Ranger hasn't really changed that much. I still got my little pet doing some of the work there. I still run at range. I've just got a very noisy bow now, which is a legendary bow. It doesn't do any more damage than the Ascended. It just looks cool. This is a soul beast, so this is the natural progression of Ranger, of where you're going to go in the future. But it is hard to beat a little Azura Necro once you get all your little minions, because they will run around with you and fight the guys. They're not going to do much here because there isn't much to fight. Let's see, if we go up here, there might be something going on in the... Oh no, they're blowing up the pipes. Go, my minion friends. We've got to save them from blowing up all the pipes. I'm not even doing anything, and they're killing all these guys. I'm not even having to do anything. I'm just going to stand here with my shiny staff. Oh no, they're blowing up small pipes. So yeah, this is a super easy character. You can pretty much run around and not even do much. My favourite collecting character. Now if you really want to play as a heavy, I think Guardian is probably the way to go. This is obviously a late level Guardian. You start with a club. And they're okay, I guess, to start. I wouldn't be my first choice to start, but they are considered one of the easy ones. Obviously, late game, they are murdering little things they are. They'll take out things quite well. They can run down little spells and things to protect other people, so I just I do like them quite a lot, actually. I mean, obviously, these guys aren't as big and tough as they look. They're all show, but even so, we do take them out very easily. They are a lot of fun to play, these guys. I just run a straight Guardian. There are other options you can do with Guardian, but I really just prefer just running as a Guardian, to be honest. Early on, you're just going to have a club. You go club people to death, but you can use them as a support character for your friends. So you're usually liked in a group, generally. But then it's a very friendly game. Now, unfortunately, I don't just have an ordinary engineer. They start with a pistol and don't do a lot for a start, but very quickly you can have things like all these turrets like that, which form a little killing circle, and they have little guns and whatnot. You can put on things like flamethrowers as well, and little tool belt options. This doesn't have a lot of that because I have a giant robot fighting for me. This takes a while to get. You've got to be level 80, and then you've got to have... That is End of Dragons expansion. You have to have the 3rd expansion for that. But it is one of the coolest, easiest characters to play in the game. But a lot of work to get there. As I say, then you can blow up those turrets. You can have those extra turrets in a lot of these slots. If you go here, you can look and you can have turrets and potions and all sorts of cool things that you can throw in there. Throw a turret in there so that when I press 9, sorry, 7. I'm an idiot. So I can place a turret and things like that. So in the early game, you'll be doing a lot of that. This can be a really fun character later in the game. Something to look for. Possibly not a first character, maybe it's a later character. Warrior is another easy starter option. You start with a sword, and it's just really up close and personal. Obviously, this is a later version of it. I think this is one of the specializations where you have a magic sword. I think it's a blade sword or something like that. But generally speaking, you're going to be running around with a sword. This is a great sword. I think you start with a normal sword and just bashing people. They're actually not a bad character. You can just pretty much simple fit them with just warrior, power, critical hits, and if you just like running around bashing things, you like heavy armors. This doesn't have a heavy armor, it's got some sort of ray short armor. And you can also have a bow, which is cool. So if you want to do a little bit of range stuff, if you want to go heavy, they are not a bad option. The Mesmer are an interesting class. I don't see them as a straight up front first class to play, but they are a good secondary one because you can do portals like that, and obviously you would normally do them somewhere else. Then you can use that portal to portal back to a particular place, up high or whatever, which is their #1 thing. They also produce all these little clones, which you then use to run up to things and kill them by exploding. It's a weird way to do things, but that's how this class works. It also has some really good specializations, but this one is just a mesmer apparently. I would consider this one something to try as your second character at least, but I thought I would have a quick play with it anyway. But then if you really like fire, a Elementalist might be for you. It's considered one of the harder ones to play. I don't remember how to play this. Oh. This is my World v World character. I haven't played World v World in ages. Press a lot of buttons, see what happens. There are a sequence to press these buttons in, but I don't remember what I do. But they are a lot of fun. You start with a knife or a sword, I can't remember which, and you throw fire at people. Fire is generally the best, well, early on anyway. But you can also... I pressed all the wrong buttons. They also do earth, air, and what is it? Fire, water, earth, and air. So all the elements, alchemy elements, obviously. Not the real elements. You don't throw uranium at them or anything like that. But lots of fire. Very effective little killers, even when you can't play, even if you don't remember how to play them. This one has a sword and a dagger by the looks, but yes, when you start it, you start with one of those. This is actually not a pure elementalist. I think this is a weaver or whatever, because it can run two elements at once. I'm currently running fire and earth. But yes, so if you want something really different and a little bit challenging, I don't suggest it's a first character, but I'm just giving options here. And we saw the thief early on. I was playing around, not considered a beginner character, but you know, a couple of pistols, they could be a lot of fun. I don't find them that difficult for low level stuff. I have never mastered one. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I don't know how to play. I don't play these a lot. But just doing the simple stuff, they seem easy enough. But it's not my first choice, obviously. I'm just throwing it in here for completeness. I think I've had a quick go at all of them except for Revenant. I don't even think I have a Revenant on me. I think they start with a mace. I still remember I spent a lot of time with hammers. They're a little bit complicated because you've got to call up ancient people and every time you call up a different ancient person, you have different skills. Otherwise, with most characters, and even with those, it's the weapon you use that changes your skills, but there are other things that change the skills as well. So every class can be very different depending on what weapon you've got and what specialization you've got. So that was a quick rundown on the classes. They all work. You can use any of them and you can always start again and try another one. My pick for easy is Ranger or Necro or Guardian Warrior. They all work. They all have their good and bad points. Some are easy straight up like the Ranger. Some are easy later game like the Engineer. Some are easy after a very short time like the Necro. Some are challenging but a lot of fun and do some really wild stuff. Some have some really interesting great talents like the Mesmer. Some are good for helping your friends and doing things, and some are just great for bashing people, and I don't know what that does. I know Thief is a killer in World v World. I can't play a Thief like that, but I get killed by a lot of them, so they are very good. Revenant, I don't know. There's something about hammers. And at the end, you give yourself a name. It's got to be unique. You can change it. And then you start the game, and then you go out into the world and you ask people, what do I do now? And they're going to tell you whatever you want. So we might do a video on what to do once you start.